again, when these things blow up, they're like little nuclear bombs.
Welcome to Inside Startup Investing, the only podcast where you can invest in every guest. On this episode, I will be speaking with the CEO of GACW, Harmen van Kamp. As a reminder, if you like what you hear on today's episode, you can invest in GACW on Start Engine, regardless of whether or not you are accredited, with a minimum investment of $499 until April 9th, 2026. Remember when you were taught in school by your teacher not to reinvent the wheel? Well, the team at GACW clearly did not get the message, because they have gone ahead and reinvented the wheel anyway, and maybe for good reason. While the word mining might sound boring at first glance, it is still an essential and tremendously large global business around the world. And at the center of mining operations, there is a massive equipment. One of those pieces of equipment are mega dump trucks. I mean, like bigger than most homes in the United States, that can carry many metric tons of mined commodities. If you look these vehicles up on Google, you'll see that the wheels on these trucks could probably fit 40 to 50 F-150s in them alone. And the expense of them also supersedes that of many homes in the United States. So replacing these mega wheels is big business and a big cost for mining companies. That is where GACW has built an innovative new wheel that leverages the power of pneumatic hydraulics, compartment technology, and more to create a more sustainable, longer-lasting, tougher wheel that keeps mining dump trucks running and the need to repair whole wheels to a minimum. You can imagine if you get a hole in mining wheels, getting a patch like you do in a car tire is hardly the answer. With GACW's technology, the wheel not only doesn't have air in it, but you can actually replace individual parts of the treads that wear down rather than the whole wheel, saving time and money for the mining company. After a decade plus of developing this technology, the team is entering the early days of commercialization across the globe. While still risky as they look to ramp on their first paying customers, they have proven a great deal of their technology to convince their first partners to come along for the ride. This one was certainly off my radar because mining equipment is not something I think about every day, and you probably don't either. But I left the discussion thinking that maybe my elementary school teacher had it all wrong. Maybe sometimes you do need to reinvent the wheel. So with that, let's get on to the show and welcome Harmen. So for those who don't know you, Harmen, give us a little bit of background on yourself and how you came to found this organization.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Dutch, hence my big favorite city in the back. That's where I was born and raised. Background in microeconomics and international business. Did a little bit of everything all over the world, but in Mexico, where my wife is from, got involved with the mining industry, which is very cyclical. And then in 2016, there was a downturn. I met my co-founder or the founder of the company and partner, Zoltan Kemeny, mechanical engineer. And he says, I've got this crazy, well, for him, it wasn't crazy. It was a crazy idea though. This reinvention of the wheel, where everyone obviously says, don't reinvent the wheel. So I start looking at it. I'm thinking, if this is such a good thing, why did no one else did it? And all the obvious questions. And after a couple of months of talking to him, I thought, you know what, there is something there. I contacted my mining contacts that I have, although they're more in the exploration side of the business than the production side. But they all very consistently came back that either this is just too crazy and what are you doing? Or, and most of them did that, if this works the way you say it worked, you're going to disrupt an industry that we've never seen before. It's the biggest change that mining will go through in the next decade or so. That got my attention. Start raising money, and I said, "Look, you do all the engineering, the clever stuff. I do all the business stuff. I wouldn't call it all the fun stuff because money raising isn't that easy." Got started, and here we are, 10 years R&D, ready to launch.
Many of us don't work in the mining industry, so in trying to frame up the problem that you're solving, as far as I knew until today, right, the wheel works perfectly fine. It's worked for tens of millions of cars and all sorts of military equipment. Why doesn't the wheel work well in the mining segment?
The thing is, everyone knows the tire on your car and the tire on your bicycle, and it's a nuisance when you get a puncture. That's it. That's the worst thing that can happen, really. But when you get to these large sizes, and I'm talking from construction sizes and up, it becomes a whole different animal. Then things such as payload and speed and overheating and pressure, they all become exponentially larger issues. So looking at a mining company, if you think about it, they're 100% reliant on tires. No tires, no mining. Every little bit of dirt gets put in a truck and gets shipped around. Now, these tires, the sizes that we're looking at, are 14, 15 feet in overall diameter. The
Wow.
pure and sheer volume of air in those tires make them prone for all kinds of failures, blowouts. And when a tire of that size blows up, and I have a picture of a announcement that was put on a bulletin board on a mine site. The size tire I'm talking about, 15 feet in overall diameter. When that blows up and you're next to it, it will propel a 200-pound man 11 football fields in the air. It's a huge safety factor. And the reason why on a mine site, the mines are typically not the safest places on earth. They're very dangerous. And you got a whole OSHA called MSHA department just focused on mining and regulating that. Tire bays are far away from any other operations. Again, when these things blow up, they're like little nuclear bombs. Now that's the safety side. And I'm only going to touch on three big ones. The second one is cost. Tires are typically the highest expense on any balance sheet on mine sites. One of these big tires, talking about 60, 70, $80,000. They fluctuate massively in prices. And you get six of them on there. So when you buy a big truck from a vehicle OEM, you get the vehicle, it will not come with the tires. You put on $500,000 worth of rims and tires. And then these things only last 9 months on average. So over the lifetime of the vehicle, you're spending the worth and the value of the vehicle just on tires alone. Now, third but not least, tires are, particularly on that size, very difficult to recycle. You can't just cut them up and mulch them down and reuse them again. It's got 200 different compounds in it. Steel wiring, it's got literally a ton of steel wiring in there. Bandages, cotton, about 200 different chemical components, different plastic synthetics. Extremely difficult to make. And they've also reached their engineering envelope. They can't be made bigger. So it's also a limiting factor for mining vehicle volumes. So we're solving all those problems of making a mechanical wheel. And that's very big news, particularly in the world today that we want to go green. Mines, we need a whole bunch of them.
In terms of this new wheel that you've designed, what are the mechanics of it? Why is it better?
Yeah, so we take away what they call the whole pressure vessel. We removed everything, and when I do a presentation to anyone, I always say everything you understand and think you know about tires, forget about it. We started from the ground up again, and where should you put the suspension? Is it on the outside where you have all the impacts, or is it better on the inside where you can have it nicely protected? So everything you know about a rubber tire, chuck it out. We're putting on a rim. We're putting on an outer drum. In fact, I've got a nice little version of it here. So you got a rim that fits on the hub of the vehicle. You got a big outer drum, and between those two, you have these air cylinders that will give the suspension to the vehicle. So the vehicle is basically floating inside that wheel. Now, what does it do? It can't blow up. There's no pressure vessel in it anymore. These cylinders are protected. The big news here is you have individually replaceable treads. So, on your rubber tire, even on your car, you wear off the profile, it's an inch and a half. You throw away about 95% of the product. It's absolutely insane. Well, here, you wear out the tread, you take the tread off, you bolt the new one on, and off you go. So cost effective, yes, these wheels are designed to last the lifetime of the vehicle with obviously some maintenance, but you only maintain and you replace the parts that you wear out and you wear off. And cost, because you got a lifetime wheel now, your production goes up. You don't have to worry about tire bay anymore. You don't have to worry about any of these safety issues anymore. And you just focus on how this works. Now, the biggest thing for this, for us, is we're not going to sell these wheels. We're going to do a wheels as a service business, which means The mine sites don't have any additional cost of putting these wheels on. They reap all the benefits of increased production, lower rolling resistance, better safety, 100% recyclable and rebuildable, but they don't have to worry about these wheels anymore. For us, it's interesting because we build an asset-based company with a depreciated asset on the balance sheet, and we just maintain these wheels.
So you literally have like suspension looking devices within the wheel. Um, so just, for those who were able to see it, or even if they weren't, on a car that's on the road, right? You have the tires filled with air, or even a bicycle tire is filled with air, and it creates that, the hardness of the tire, which manages the amount of friction between the ground and that tire. Seeing like suspension built quite literally into the wheel, it feels as though at really high speed something like that wouldn't work. Like maybe there's not a perfect roundness to the tire. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud. So is the reason why this works in this setting is just because these are slow moving vehicles with extremely heavy weights, and you're just needing to move things not huge distances but just large amounts of it?
Um, No, but I understand where you're coming from. It's a matter of engineering. So yes, you're totally right that at low speed and heavy payload, you're looking at a very vastly different setting, design, and engineering spectrum that what we would do on high speed, smaller sizes. The cycles are different, very, very different. So in that sense, you're totally right. It will be a whole different pitch for engineering. But it's just something that is literally that. It's just the engineering part of it. So if I've shown these, there's so many engineers now, particularly mechanical engineers, and they look at this and they're thinking, wow, the things I can change and adjust now is endless because I can adjust the speed rating. I can adjust the how strong it is for impact and payload. I can adjust the site movement and the forces. Whereas with a rubber tire, people think it is a very simple thing, but it's actually a highly engineered chemical component. But there's not much you can do. You can add pressure and you can lower the pressure. So the only thing you can really work with is the pressure, and that's it. With our wheel, you can adjust everything. So yeah, to your point, a lot of stuff needs to happen to make it viable for every single application. The beauty of it is we can do it for a fact. We've had them on wheelchairs. We've had them on cars. We just don't
Mm.
have the time and money to invest into it and develop it because you're right. Instead of payload, you're looking at speed that needs to be paid attention to one over the other. But that's just a matter of time and a matter of engineering and money in the end of the day.
Now, and this is coming from an investor perspective. I know how investors think after having talked to them for the last decade about investing in companies, online. And one of the
Yes.
questions that I'm sure you get is, why is it taking 10 years to get to commercialization?
Um, because we looked at all the markets and we could have gone for, let's say, wheelchairs. It's a $5 billion a year market. It's nice, but how urgent is it? It kind of works. We could have done it with a lower budget, but there is potentially some competition. So then we looked at, okay, where is it most urgent? Your car, you drive around in your car 1 hour a day, it stands still for 23 hours a day. It's not really a big limiting factor. We will improve on it, but it's not a big thing. When you go to mining, construction, forestry, ports, tires are the showstopper. They're the operational block if you don't have them and go without them. And mining trucks, they run 23 hours a day and they stand still 1 hour a day. Now that did bring us to a problem. Building a set of the size that we're talking about, 14, 15 feet in overall diameter, you don't do that as quickly as making a little wheel for a wheelchair. It takes 4 or 5 months, definitely at the beginning, TRL 1, 2, and 3, 4 or 5 months just to engineer it. Then you need to build it. And you're prototyping. Everything's for the first time. Everything needs to be sized. Everything needs to be sourced. So just to build the first set, 9 months, out, $1 million, gone. So that's the reason why. Now, mining is therefore also very notoriously slow. And a lot of investors that have a little bit of mining and forestry and agricultural and construction background, they understand these cycles. On top of that, just to go in parallel, mine sales cycles are also 5, 6, 7 years. So we've done it in parallel.
Hmm.
We didn't sit still, wait until we have a product or a perfect product even, and then start selling. We're ready now and readily engaging and PO negotiations underway, because now we have, the product readiness to go to market.
So where you are today, you say you're kind of in this like commercial ready 2026, do revenues hit? Does it take till 2027, 2028? And what's your sense in terms of how many tires you think you could put in market over the next, call it 12 to 24 months?
Yeah, so mining companies are risk adverse because, again, if you have a truck standing still, you're losing tens of thousands of dollars an hour. So no mining company will say, okay, let's do whole fleet wide adoption. We're going to do one, let it run for a year, make sure everybody's comfortable. There's a lot of settings that need to be checked on. Maintenance need to be okay with it. Operations need to be, production needs to be okay. Procurement. There's so many departments involved with this. So they'll only give you okay. So this year, our aim, and we're well on our way to do this, is 8 vehicles, and every vehicle is roughly worth about $1 million. Although under that wheels as a service business, the construction is a little bit different, but at least you got those first 8 orders and engaged. Once that works for a year, then all of a sudden you can expect, okay, let's do a quarter of a mine site. You're looking at 40 vehicles per one of those 8 companies. And really, the hockey stick we're expecting, I'm being conservative, who knows what happens, because it solves so many problems for them, is expected in year 3, 4. We'll be ready for year 7 production already. We have the capacity. But there's only one miner that needs to say, look, you're solving safety issues, environmental issues, and procurement issues with these status duopoly quo mining company or tire companies. We want to have company-wide adoption. How quick can you do this? And you're looking at a very big uptick.
To date, it sounds like you have done a few tests in the mining sector. What are some results you can speak to?
Um, yeah, we've done multiple. I think we've gone about 14 or 15 rounds. So you build the wheel, and this is funny because you're obviously with looking at this from an investor's point of view, and I'm in between as a CEO between investors and the engineers. Investors like stuff to work. Engineers like to break stuff because when it breaks, they can learn and it can improve. Investors don't like to hear it, but I need to bring the good news that we broke stuff, so we've learned things. So yes, we've tested it on relatively small vehicles. It's called the Cat 777. That's the largest construction vehicle, but the smallest mining vehicle, all the way up to they call it Cat 793. Mind you, it's almost 300 tons payload on these vehicles. What can I say? Increased payload capacity. So a tire is limited. It is what it is. That's the restriction. We can make these things stronger, thicker, better, last longer. We finally were able, and this is in the last 2, 3 rounds, able to settle on the tread compound. So now we know, okay, this is the right measure. We get improved traction, shorter braking distance. But when you go around curves, as you know, mass always likes to go straight. Well, tires, particularly these high sidewalls, they collapse under high load. Well, our wheels are steel mechanical wheels, and we got lateral restraints in there. You can go around curves much faster. Well, you can imagine if you need to climb out of that mining pit, and you got all these hairpins, and you can do that even if it's 5 kilometers per hour faster than you could before, and you can put in one mining cycle per truck per day in extra, the uptick is just enormous. So those are things that you need to think about. I would like to give a crazy example. There's a mining house that had to stop. Well, there's a specific areas where there's lightning strike events. Tires, rubber tires, they isolate the vehicle. Rubber is a great insulator. And if you get hit, you're carrying around ore or iron ore or coal, you
Right.
get hit by a lightning strike, that's not good for the driver. So they have to stop mining altogether. Well, steel
Hmm.
is a great conductor of electricity. So we will enable these mines, most likely, to continue production even though there's lightning strikes. Well, can you put a value on that? And so on and so forth. So there's many things about it. They can get rid of the whole tire bay because it becomes a mechanical maintenance now instead of a tire fix. They can do it themselves. They don't need to bring in specialized tire service companies anymore. It's literally endless. The biggest thing is safety, obviously, and believe it or not, because a lot of people don't like the idea of notion of mining, they want to clean up their act. They want to become environmentally friendly. The investors demand that as well. Tires are. I'm not sure if I've said this already, but there's an article in National Geographic, and they estimate that tires are the second largest polluter in the oceans. That
Hmm.
28% of the microplastics in the oceans come from tires. Well, we're going to reduce that tremendously.
In terms of the size of the opportunity, looking at the overall kind of mining market, how many trucks does that entail? How big of an opportunity is it?
Oh, blimey. Mining trucks, and it's a little bit of an estimate that I got from Smithers. They do these market insights. About 4 or 5 years ago, 72,000 vehicles globally.
Hmm.
And for us, each vehicle is roughly worth $1 million. So you can imagine we have a little road ahead of us, and that's just mining. And like to your point, why did we start mining? For obvious reasons. But then we have patents that cover practically the whole world and all the industrialized world. But it's applicable to wheelchairs, to bicycles, to cars, trucks, buses. Heck, we can make them for aircraft. The limiting factor for aircraft, one of them not becoming much bigger, is the tires. They just can't take more impact. So
Hmm.
we're opening up quite a few industries with the 100% focus on mining first, but I would love to license this to a chassis manufacturer or a car manufacturer. It will make a big difference for them.
In terms of your manufacturing capability, you mentioned that you have a pretty long runway of being able to meet demand. What
Yeah.
does your manufacturing facility look like today?
Yeah, we subcontract manufacturing currently because you're looking at the treads. You need tens of thousands of these treads. We don't have the machinery. Looking at hundreds of millions of dollars of investment for um, drum manufacturing, rim manufacturing. So at the moment, subcontracted manufacturing, and there are grants available that we're actively applying for to set up manufacturing, for example, for the rim. That's just a cylinder with clevises on top. No rocket science, really. We will set it up in hopefully in the near future. So yeah, the future in that sense is bright. Bring it in house. A couple of reasons for it: supply chain guarantee, quality control, extremely important. But third, pricing, obviously, control the price. But the fourth and not least is the control of IP. So any invention, anything on that, that's why the five components of the wheel, they go to five different manufacturers. So not one
Hmm.
company owns the whole IP. But bringing it in-house, it only ensures that we own the manufacturing IP 100% ourselves as well.
When you think about success over the next kind of 24 to 36 months, because I think it's always extremely hard to forecast beyond that, what does that look like to you?
Is really implementing corporate structure. So we're hiring people. We hired 2 people last week, solidifying all our legal structure. We're getting the POs now set up, risk assessments. We're in the process of ISO. We just passed our second audit, or we're in the process of our second audit. Ticking all those boxes for making sure that they're taking us seriously as a proper setup company in an operation. We start taking orders from July onwards, and we're going to do a staggered implementation because we can't take 8 orders at the same time. Because if we need to do 8 mine sites at the same time in 8 different places in the world, that's just impossible. So we do a rollout: Australia, US, and Canada focused region one first. Training people, that takes time, and knowing everything that our COO knows, Daryl and myself, and our engineer, it's a lot of work. So that's set up. Um, Closely monitoring them, then setting up agents to do the service contracts for us. They need to be qualified, authorized, understanding what we're doing, knowing that once you got one mining house reaping all these benefits of these wheels, the Joneses effect kicks in.
Hmm.
I think we're going to see a very rapid growth again.
For those investors who are on the line or thinking about investing, they're not there just yet. I'll give you the last word. What do you want them to know?
I think from the R&D point of view and the pushing and the risking, the heavy lifting is done. We're always going to be R&Ding this product. We're always going to make it better because it all adds up at our bottom line. The most exciting stage is really coming. I hate that word as a Dutchman. Commercialization of the product, getting it into the market, really making an impact. And you know what? There's very few companies, if any at all, that can truly say that they've reinvented the wheel. You know, we were time's best invention in 2023. We got some accolades. It's really exciting. And last but not least, I know there's a big hype around all these softwares and AI coming in. I do get a lot of people coming back and saying to me, wow, a tangible solution for a real world problem. That's very rare nowadays. And we love to get on board, just be able to have something that, it's not just ones and zeros.
If you like what you heard on the show today, you can invest $499 or more in GACW on Start Engine until April 9th, 2026. And of course, if you want to learn more about GACW, you can check out our analysis at kingscrowd.com and search GACW. And as always, if you like what you heard on the show today, please like, subscribe, and share our podcast wherever you listen so more investors like you can find us. Thanks for tuning in and happy investing.